West Asia is once again standing on the edge of fire, but this time the flames are rising from the streets of Iran.
A police station in the neighborhood of Tehran Pars, Tehran.
Islamic terrorist en Iran.
Standing on the edge of fire, but this time the flames are rising from the streets of Iran. Today, all of Iran is boiling. From Tehran to small towns and remote villages, the situation looks the same everywhere.
Good afternoon. Protests continue to erupt across Iran in multiple cities. Clashes reported there as human rights organizations say demonstrations are now unfolding in more than 111 different locations.
We're starting to get our first look at what's happening inside Iran after 4 days in the dark, and the situation is deteriorating with more than 600 demonstrators
West
killed in the
Asia
last
is once
week, though
again
opposition
standing
leaders
on
say
the edge of
the
fire,
real number
but
is in
this
the
time
thousands.
the flames
Fox's
are
Rebecca
rising
Castor
from the streets
has more
of
from
Iran.
Washington.
Today, all of Iran is boiling. From Tehran to small towns and remote villages, the situation looks the same everywhere.
Reports of nationwide internet shutdowns and speed throttling are coming in. Mobile data has been cut in many cities. Social media platforms have been blocked. Both live videos and ground footage are being stopped, so the outside world cannot see the real situation.
Iran is now under a nationwide internet blackout as anti-government protests continue for a 13th straight day.
Iran is experiencing a nationwide internet blackout as protests.
From Tehran's Grand Bazaar to distant towns and villages, only one voice is being heard. And this anger did not erupt suddenly. It is rage that has been building for years, and now it has finally burst out. It would not be wrong to say that Iran is once again standing at a point where power could change at any moment.
All of this is happening directly against the Islamic rule of Ali Khamenei, the same system that has crushed major protests with brute force in the past. But this time, the picture looks different. The harder the regime tries to extinguish the fire, the faster it seems to spread. You might be wondering why all this is happening right now. The reality is that the situation has become so fragile that reports suggest even Khamenei himself is worried about his future. His security has been increased several times over. His movements have been restricted. Public appearances are almost non-existent. Some reports even claim that if the situation worsens, Khamenei could flee to Russia. In other words, the atmosphere today is such that the Islamic system itself appears to be standing at its final turning point. So the question is, why is all this happening? What are the reasons that people are saying this time Khamenei's power may truly come to an end? And the most important question, if that happens, what impact will it have on global politics? Let's understand that in this video. To understand why there is so much chaos in Iran today, we first need to understand what Iran used to be like. Only then can we understand why people in the streets today are talking about bringing back the old system and what that system actually was. Around 50 years ago, in the 1970s, Iran was completely different. At that time, Iran was led by Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi. Shah Pahlavi was a pro-Western leader. His thinking was clear. He wanted to turn Iran into a modern nation, one run not by religion, but by institutions, the economy, and state power. He believed that if Iran wanted to become strong,
It needed to industrialize like the West, expand education, and separate religion from state power. Because of this ideology, Iran's politics moved in that same direction. During his rule, Iran was rapidly becoming a modernizing, secular, upward-moving nation. Iran had oil, and the money coming from oil was directly invested in development. Highways were being built in major cities, ports and airports were modernized, manufacturing industries were being established, steel, cement, automobile and textile sectors were expanding. Factories were running, and large-scale jobs were being created.
The condition of women in Iran at that time was completely different from today. Girls went to schools and colleges. The number of women in universities was continuously increasing. Women worked as doctors, engineers, teachers, and office professionals. Moving freely in public spaces or driving cars was normal for women. There were no religious clothing laws. Wearing or not wearing hijab was a personal choice. Under the Pahlavi regime, religion was limited to people's private lives. There was no social pressure to practice Islam in a particular public way. Praying or not praying, going to the mosque or not, wearing hijab or not, all of this was individual choice.
In this environment of fear, one name began spreading rapidly across Iran: Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini. At that time, he was not even in Iran. He was in exile, but his absence became his strength. From outside the country, he could say things he could never say from within Iran. There was no internet or social media back then, but Khomeini's speeches were recorded on cassette tapes and distributed through mosques, markets, and homes. Again and again, one message was repeated: the Shah is an agent of America. The Shah wants to destroy Islam. The Shah is responsible for poverty and unemployment in Iran.
And to some extent, this was true. Mohammad Reza Pahlavi was indeed backed by the US and had come to power after a coup supported by America. A large section of Iranian society opposed him and viewed him with suspicion. Slowly, people began to believe Khomeini's words. Protests started, first in universities and factories, then in cities, and soon nationwide strikes began. Very quickly, these protests turned into a mass movement. The situation became so intense that Shah Pahlavi was forced to leave the country. Just 15 days after the Shah left, on February 1st, an Air France flight landed in Tehran carrying Khomeini.
Khomeini was welcomed not like an ordinary leader, but like a savior. Millions of people were on the streets. But no one knew that the man they welcomed would soon do things they could never have imagined. With Khomeini's arrival, the monarchy ended and the Islamic Republic of Iran was declared. Khomeini introduced the system of velayat-e-faqih, where the supreme leader stood above everything. The president and parliament existed only in name. Under Articles 5 and 110 of the new constitution, the supreme leader was given direct control over the military, judiciary, state media, IRGC, and intelligence agencies.
A guardian council was also created, consisting of 12 members. 6 clerics were directly appointed by the supreme leader, and the other 6 came through the judiciary. The council's main job was to decide who could contest elections and who could not. After 1980, thousands of candidates were disqualified in every election, especially secular, leftist, and reformist candidates. Gradually, a full-fledged Islamic dictatorship was established. Sharia law was imposed across the country. Anyone who questioned the system was crushed. According to human rights reports, over 8,000 people were imprisoned in political cases in the first 4 years alone, including journalists, students, activists, writers, and revolutionaries.
Between 1980 and 1983, secular laws were systematically removed and replaced with Sharia-based laws. Trained judges were removed from courts and clerics were placed instead. During this time, the morality police, known as Gasht-e-Irshad, was created. Their job was not to stop crime, but to check how strictly people followed Islam. They checked women's clothing on the streets, whether hair was visible or not, whether clothes were loose or tight. Men were questioned about beard length and hairstyles. In 1983, hijab was officially made law. Every woman had to wear hijab in public.
Refusal meant fines, jail, and punishment. Music bans were banned. Many books were declared illegal. Films and art were censored. School and university curriculums were changed. The most brutal phase came in 1988. Khomeini issued a fatwa declaring that anyone opposing the Islamic system had no right to live. Secret death commissions were formed. Thousands were executed in mass killings. Reports say 4,000 to 5,000 prisoners were executed within months. Families were not even given the bodies, and many were never told where their loved ones were buried. After Khomeini's death, Ali Khamenei became the new supreme leader. People hoped he would not push Iran into darkness, but in reality, he was even more radical. Decades of repression changed society. The new generation not only began to hate the regime, but also drifted away from religion itself. Surveys show many Iranians now privately identify as non-religious or atheist. Mosques stand empty. Attendance has collapsed. Even Khamenei's close advisors admit this. One senior cleric acknowledged that out of 75,000 mosques in Iran, around 50,000 are closed. Despite this, Sharia was forcibly imposed. Anyone who resisted was tortured. Though Khamenei crushed many uprisings, he failed to see that the spark had already been lit. When trust in a society is broken, only money, jobs, or daily stability can keep a system alive. Iran lost all three. After the 1979 revolution, Iran's economy remained under constant pressure. Sanctions, isolation, and mismanagement followed. Oil exports collapsed. Inflation skyrocketed. The currency collapsed. Youth unemployment soared. Brain drain accelerated. Corruption spread at every level. People who have nothing left to lose cannot be frightened. And that is why what is happening in Iran today is happening at this scale. Many believe this could be the final nail in Khamenei's rule.